I'm Dr. Hernando Carter, board certified internal medicine physician. Yes, your primary care extraordinaire. And welcome to the Prescription for Better Living podcast, where we discuss all things health and wellness in a hip and relatable way. To all of my returning PBL family, thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome back. And if you're new to our PBL podcast family, welcome to the family. You know what I need you to do. I need you to subscribe to the podcast. I need you to like. I need you to rate. Give us 5 stars. I need you to comment. I need you to share all the good news everywhere you go, especially if this podcast has helped you, spoken to you in some way, giving you new information that you didn't have before. You can support us, and your support is always welcome. Just hit us on the Cash App, $ PBL podcast. No donation is too large or too small. Also, you can join our Patreon family for just $1 per month. That is patreon.com/Dr. Hernando Carter. Also, if you'd like to become a podcast sponsor, we welcome your business. You can email us at contact@rxforbetterliving.org. You see it on the screen there. Contact@rx4betterliving.org. Speaking of sponsors, shout out to our sponsor, the Prescription for Better Living sponsor is Right on Time Physical Therapy. My man Cedric Cooper, right over there off Avenue D in Ensley. Right on Time Physical Therapy can take care of all of your physical therapy needs. Whatever you need, he can do. If you're having mobility issues, he can handle that. If you're having back pain, neck pain, hip stiffness, whatever it is, he can handle it. So go holler at my man Cedric Cooper, Right on Time Physical Therapy. You can visit him online, rightontimept.com, or you can go over there in Ensley, Avenue D, the Ensley Health Club, and tell them the Prescription for Better Living podcast and Dr. Hernando Carter sent you. So this is episode 36, and we have been introducing this concept of neuroplasticity. And in a nutshell, what we've been talking about is the limitless capacity of our minds, and really the boundaries and limitations that society and others place on us, and then the self-imposed limitations that we place on ourselves are really the only thing hindering us from going from level to level to level, because our minds have the capacity for so much more than we give ourselves credit for. So this is the Limitless Life, Part 3, Episode 36, Limitless Life, Part 3. So, what are we talking about with the Limitless Life, Part 3? Today, I want to talk to you about brain messaging. Brain messaging. Well, what's brain messaging, Hernando? I'm glad you asked. Brain messaging is the messages that we send to ourselves from our mind. It's how we speak to ourselves about our capabilities, about our capacity, right? It is how we see ourselves. Do we see ourselves as limited in a box, or do we see ourselves having the ability to change, to evolve, to grow, to improve, to challenge ourselves and overcome? So are you a fixed brain person, or are you a growth brain person? So I want to show you something. I've been reading this book. Now, the concept of neuroplasticity is something that I started learning about in college, and I'll get into that in a future episode. But I've been reading this book. It's called Limitless Mind by Joe Bowler. Joe Bowler also wrote Mathematical Mindsets, and I recommend you check that out. But this whole concept of neuroplasticity is really covered in this book. And it's gone deeper than even the knowledge I had before reading this book. Before reading this book, if you were to ask me about neuroplasticity, I would have told you about the bench research that I did and about the brain's ability to adapt, overcome, and recover from injury. But neuroplasticity is so much more than just that. That's what we're talking about, and that's what this book gets into, the limitless mind. So, what kind of brain do you have? Do you have a fixed brain or do you have a growth brain? So the fixed brain says that these are your capabilities. This is what you can do. This is what you're good at. And you just stick at that. And it says that this is what you're bad at and you avoid that, right? So it tells you that you must operate within your capabilities, within the bounds of your capabilities. For example, are you good at math or bad at math? It says that if you're good at math, science, reading, whatever, then you dive into that. But if you're bad at it, then you just don't do it. You avoid it. You avoid anything that has to do with math, any career that has to do with science, any career that has to do with reading, public speaking, whatever. Fixed brain says, this is what you're good at. This is what you're bad at. Do what you're good at. Don't do what you're bad at. That's a fixed brain. A growth brain acknowledges what your strengths are, and a growth brain acknowledges your weaknesses. But here's the difference between a fixed brain and a growth brain. The growth brain acknowledges your challenges, but it also acknowledges another fact, that with work, you can achieve. With work, you can get better at the thing that you're challenged at. And you remember in previous episodes when we talked about the children who were struggling through the math problem, it showed actually that their brain was more active when they were struggling to grasp a concept or working a challenging math problem than when they were just on automatic pilot, right? So your brain responds to the stimuli of a challenge. So neuroplasticity really challenges at its foundation the fixed brain belief. It challenges, no, it uproots the belief that you're just good at math or you're bad at math and there's no hope. You're just good at reading or bad at reading and there's no hope. You're just good at public speaking or bad at public speaking and there's no hope. The growth brain messaging philosophy says, no, no, no. Whatever you're willing to lean into, you can get better at. Now, also, what neuroplasticity says is that the times when we're actually struggling with something, that we're making mistakes and then examining those mistakes and learning from those mistakes are the best times for brain growth. Those are the best times, not when things are easy for you and they just come automatic to you. But when you actually have to work at something, that's when your brain is stimulated. And that's when your brain is growing. So why, Hernando, are you spending so much time on this? I'm glad you asked, because the process of mind renewal says that if it's a concept that is foreign to you, that is new to you, you got to hear it again and hear it again. And if there is something that is contrary to your benefit, but is deeply rooted in you, you got to listen and read and consume things that are contrary to that, whatever that negative thing. And right now we're talking about the fixed brain concept. You got to get that up out of you. So, did you know that neuroplasticity says that our minds controls our bodies? Well, you may say, well, duh. Of course, right? Because the brain is a part of the neural system, right? You have the central nervous system, and the central nervous system controls things like breathing, like your heart beating, like your eyes blinking, your pupils dilating and contracting, things that we don't even have to really think consciously about. Swallowing. Your central nervous system does that. So you say, well, Hernando, of course the brain controls the body, but that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is that when it comes to our beliefs can affect our physical bodies. That's neuroplasticity. The brain is very powerful. I want to tell you about a study that was done at Stanford University. Aaliyah Crum and Octavia Zott did a study. Here's what the study did. They took two groups of people. It was over 61,000 people. And they led part of that 61,000 to believe that the exercise and the physical activity that they were doing every day was enough to positively affect their health. Okay. So that was one group. These people did, and it could have been, working. They looked at hotel workers. They looked at people who had very active physical jobs. And they said to them that you're doing more exercise and you are healthier than most of the people in our population. So that's one group. Then they looked at those who thought they were doing less physical activity and less exercise than the other group, even though they were doing the same amount. So you got both groups doing the same amount, but one group over here believes that, hey, I'm doing a lot. I'm doing so much that it's positively impacting my health. And then you got another group over here doing the same amount of exercise, but they believe that it isn't sufficient and they're not impacting their health in a meaningful way. Okay. Both groups doing the same amount, over 61,000 people. Remember, I told you that. And they followed these people for over 20 years, 20 plus years. And they looked at outcomes. So this is what we would call an observational study. And what they found was that the people who thought they were doing more exercise were actually healthier, actually physically healthier than the people who thought they were doing less exercise, even though both groups were doing the same amount of exercise. So the people, both groups exercising, but the people who thought positively about what they were doing and thought what they were doing was positively impacting their health were actually healthier than the group of people who were doing the same thing. We're talking about the power of the mind. Well, how do we know by looking at them that they were actually healthier, Hernando? I'm glad you asked. Because the negative thinkers were 71%, 71% more likely to die during that follow-up period than the positive thinkers were. 71% more. So in other words, if you got a group of 10 positive thinkers over here and 10 negative thinkers over here, you had 7 out of the 10 who died at a higher rate, who died earlier than the 10 positive thinkers over here. Same amount of exercise now. But the positive thinkers live longer. I think you've heard me in my previous episodes telling you how I practice in a geriatric environment with older individuals, and I get people 60, 65, 70 come in and call themselves old. And I say, don't do that. Stop saying that. Your body hears you. And the people who are the same age, 70, and they don't talk like that. They have a different disposition about their health and their life. They're actually healthier. They take less medicine. So that's anecdotal evidence in my own practice about what we're saying here. There was another study that looked at the views of people about aging who were around age 50 years old. So the people who were positive thinkers about aging at age 50, in other words, when they hit 50, they didn't say, I'm getting on up there. I'm old now. And Gary, let me tell you, brother, the closer you get to 50, the younger it seems. I'm 45. I used to think 50 was, when I was in my 20s, man, I used to think, my teens and 20s, I used to think 50 was up there. 50 the new 21 now, Gary. I'm telling you. 50 the new 21. That's how I feel. I'm young. I got energy, full of vigor and life. And so what this study looked at was that people who were around age 50, what was their attitude about their age? The positive people who had a positive attitude on aging lived an average of 7.5 years longer than people with the negative beliefs. We're talking about the limitless life, neuroplasticity, the limitless mind. Well, what else is there? Did you know that there are studies looking at the body's ability to respond to thoughts from the mind? They took, again, two groups of people. And I'm like the pastor, I ain't gonna hold you long. I'm almost there. Two groups of people. They had people who actually exercised, let's say lifted weights or did push-ups, right? in one group. And then they had a group of people who they said, I just want you to sit and just focus on your muscles and think really hard about lifting weights. What would it feel like, right? To be lifting some heavy weight. And you know what they found? The people who just sat there and intentionally thought on a consistent basis, let's say on the same schedule as the people who were exercising. Let's say you were going to lift weights 3 times per week for 30 minutes. If you sat there and thought intentionally about lifting weights, using your muscles and lifting that heavy weight, the people who just thought about exercising, they demonstrated an increase in their strength by 35%. Their muscles got stronger by 35%. Now, the people who were actually doing the actual physical training increased their strength by 53%. So there was a difference. But to me, the big discovery here and the take home is that the people who intentionally thought about being stronger, thought about lifting weights, demonstrated over a 1/3 increase in their actual muscle strength. Where are you going, Hernando? I'm glad you asked. Proverbs 18:21 says, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. Oh, are you telling me that what the preacher has been telling me from the pulpit in Sunday school and at Bible study actually has physical manifestation, physical applicability to my life, and it's connected to this thing called neuroplasticity? Of course I'm telling you that. You know that's where I'm going with this. Let me tell you something. I don't care if a scientist or a physician believes in God or not. He can be an atheist, but he is not going to find anything in science that he studies out that is going to contradict a biblical truth and principle. He ain't going to do it. He ain't got to believe in God. Because some things are true, whether you believe them or not, but you are not going to find any truly studied out scientific principle that's proven out that is going to contradict the word of God. Proverbs 18:21. Life and death are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. In other words, you can have what you say. If you say you stupid, you're going to be dumb as a rock. If you say you smart, you'll be brilliant. If you say you're weak and you're sick and you're old, you're going to die before your time. If you consistently say I'm strong, I'm healthy, my strength is renewed, you live longer. The mind, your mind hears what's coming from here, and it sends signals to your body, chemical signals, electrical signals. And you can either talk your brain into sending signals that's going to regenerate and rejuvenate your body, grow new cells, grow new connections, neural connections, give you fresh blood every 90 days. Or you can talk negativity and death about your capabilities and your physical health, and you can turn on a process called apoptosis and start killing your cells before they were programmed to die. If you just let a cell in the correct environment live, you know how long they program to live? About 120 years, all things being equal, Gary. That's when cells start to die. It's called apoptosis. You can hasten that by talking the wrong thing. So this has been part 3 of the Limitless Life, episode 36 of the Prescription for Better Living podcast. As always, I'm Dr. Hernando Carter, board certified internal medicine physician. Yeah, your primary care extraordinaire. Saying, whatever you do, wherever you go, I need you to stand on the tallest mountaintop you can and scream to the top of your lungs, hallelujah, Dr. Carter is here. Until next time, Dr. Carter saying, peace out.